I suddenly started feeling so overwhelmed by all the stuff in my house in early December that I decided that I would declutter every single day. I actually managed to declutter for 20 days in a row. In this video, we're going to recap the first 10 days of my decluttering and look at everything that I managed to clear out from my house. So, at the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing everything that I managed to clear in the first 10 days and be discussing how this has impacted my life. First up, we start with a tour of my house before I started decluttering. This is literally the day that I decided I was going to start this. I suddenly felt so overwhelmed, literally tripping up over things in my house and not being able to find things. In particular, I had lost a watch that was so precious to me. It was a 40th birthday present from my husband, one of the nicest things that I own, probably the nicest thing that I own after my engagement ring. And it was really stressing me out that I could not find this. I believed that it was somewhere in my house. I searched for it for several days. My husband searched for it. And then I thought, enough is enough. I have to start going through this house bit by bit, clearing out some things, making it easier for me to find things. The watch wasn't the only thing that I had lost. I had lost so many things. I felt like I was losing things on a daily basis, tripping up on things every single day, and it was taking me ages to pick up after everything in the house. There are literally things on every single surface of the house when I start this. Paperwork spilling out of things, kitchen islands that cannot be seen, desks that are overflowing, blankets everywhere. And yes, there's toilet roll on the tree, but that's meant to be there. Those naughty elves have been up to no good. But if we open any cupboard in my house, it looks just like this one. Toys spilling out, doors that can't shut, paperwork that gets trapped. It was so overwhelming to me. And once you add in all of the stuff of Christmas, I think if your house is already feeling overwhelming, like mine was, suddenly everything feels 10 times worse. Now, I love Christmas. It's actually my favorite time of the year. And I'm a big kid at Christmas time. I love all of the decorations. I'd have more if I could. I absolutely adore our Christmas tree this year. I feel like it is the best Christmas tree that we have had. And I love all the things about that Christmas period. But what I wish I could do is spend more time with my kids, more time enjoying Christmas, more time enjoying all the festivities of December. But yeah, I feel like I spend so much time picking up stuff around the house. After every meal, after every activity, my kids play for a little while and things end up everywhere. They have so much stuff. I have so much stuff. Everyone in my house has a lot of stuff. And since I've been sharing this over here on YouTube, everyone has been so supportive and really, really kind. When I say everyone, I have had a few comments from people who can't believe the amount of stuff that we have. And like it's fair. We do have a lot of stuff, but that's the whole reason why I have started this decluttering series and trying to get on top of my house because I am aware that I have a lot of stuff and I'm aware that as a family we have a lot of stuff. I feel like I have had a lot of stuff like all of my adult life, if not more than that. I grew up in a house where we had a lot of stuff. I would say that my dad is probably like, basically a hoarder. He has an awful lot of stuff in a very small flat at the moment. And it, must be overwhelming for him. My mum likes things, but is a very tidy and clean person. Like we always had a lot of stuff in our house growing up, but I felt like our house was tidy, like presentable. We could have people around. It wasn't embarrassing, but when we did have people around, it would take quite a lot of time to pick up the house before they arrived. And I'm definitely at that stage of life, like where if you're going to have people over, you're going to have to spend some time sorting things out. Mostly, I would like to get to the stage where, like, I feel like I'm not picking up stuff all the time and I can spend time with the kids, but also that people could knock on the door and come in and I wouldn't be embarrassed. And actually, in the last week, just ahead of Christmas, a friend popped over unannounced. And I did look around the house and think, oh God, I'm still at that point, 20 days of decluttering every single day has not led to the house feeling peaceful and calm by any means. And I think it will take a good 2 or 3 more months of continual decluttering until I get to the point where I can walk around the house and feel like I can breathe, the house can breathe. And that's where I'd like to be. So, we do have three young children. They're ages 6, 4, and 2. I also work 4 long days a week as a lawyer. My husband works very long hours as a civil servant. So we've got a pretty full on life. All of the activities that come with having young children. Like every weekend, we are at parties for our kids, activities. Our kids don't do loads of activities outside of school, but they have swimming lessons, which I feel like is a vital life skill. My eldest has one other class, but otherwise we're not doing too much like regular kind of activities. We're not taking them to too many sporting things, but we do have family that live a reasonable distance away. My mother and mother-in-law both live a couple of hours drive away in different directions, and we're there a fair bit, seeing them and seeing other family members, seeing friends, all of the things. So this is me starting off now on day 1 of decluttering. And I started with the pile of clean laundry, which had been dumped on the bed, simply sorting that into what was mine, what was my husband's, and then into piles of things that would go in particular drawers. When it became evident to me that I had a lot of underwear that I needed to put away, I thought, right, I will just tip out all my undies onto the bed. I can sort through them and then put the laundry in to that pile and put it all away at the same time. So I had some obvious things that I needed to get rid of, things that were a little bit worn out and tired, items that I hadn't been wearing regularly. And I managed to quickly sort through so that I could put all of that back. And my strategy for all of my decluttering has been not to create a bigger mess. I have had stints of decluttering in the past. I've tried various different methods. When I first decided to Marie Kondo my clothing, it was a total disaster. Led to us having to sleep in a bedroom that had piles of clothing heaped up on the floor for several days. Because once I had got everything clothing wise that I owned like out and onto the bed, I could not move and I could not tackle it in a day. Not with having young children who needed a lot of my attention, meant that I couldn't really devote myself to it 100%. And for a long time, I've thought that I would need basically to have a couple of weeks, if not more, off work in order to truly tackle my house. But since I've started this decluttering series, and after having got through 20 consecutive days of decluttering my house like a little bit at a time, I can see that if I can continue to dedicate myself to this task, like slowly but surely, I will get there. I do not and cannot take that time off work. Like there is absolutely no way I could take more than 1 or 2 days off work. With all of the kids' holidays, everything else I need to use my annual leave for, I just cannot sacrifice that time. So we're still on day 1 now, and I had these Christmas tote boxes out. I had put the Christmas decorations up. I want to say, I don't know, somewhere up to like 5, 7 days before this particular decluttering episode. So the tote boxes had sat out there, and I thought, I just need to go through these so that I can put them back into the loft. And going through the Christmas clothing here, working out what the kids will fit in this year, what we're keeping like for next year. If there's anything that they have grown out of that my youngest will not be able to fit into, then, being at the beginning of December as we were then, I could pass that on to friends who have younger children who could make use of them, or local people. And we do have a local free bay site on our Facebook group, which is great for getting rid of things, people to come and pick them up. So now we are on to day 2, and I decided to tackle some of my kids' clothes. So we're in my boys' room where my 6-year-old and 4-year-old boys share this bedroom. It is a decent sized bedroom with the bunk beds. Like I feel like they have a decent amount of space to play in, but we have to keep on top of it to make sure that they continue to have enough space. Otherwise, very quickly, small spaces like this can feel even more overwhelming. And I want to make sure that my kids always have enough space to play happily. Like growing up, there were always so many toys and clothes and things on the floor of mine and my sister's bedroom. Like we shared a bedroom until we were able to move to a home where we could have a bedroom each when I was 13. So we spent most of our childhoods sharing a room. We had bunk beds, which were lovingly made by my granddad. And I liked sharing the room with my sister, particularly when we were younger. We've always been very close. We enjoyed playing together. But we were messy kids, like on all kids messy. And our room would very quickly become a disaster zone. And I remember every now and again, my mum would come in and she'd like go ballistic at us, like, for making us tidy up. So we'd then spend like a whole day having to go through things. And I don't want that for my kids. So I help them to keep on top of things. Not that my mum didn't help us keep on top of things, but she had a lot going on with young children. And we were probably also a little bit older when I remember our room getting into a bit of a mess, and probably should have been taking better care of our rooms. But I feel like I never really understood how to do that. And I think that's probably because my mum didn't either. And by that, what I mean is, I think ultimately when you get to the point where your room is very quickly ending up like a total mess, what I have learnt since having children myself is the best thing to do is get rid of stuff. So it's not the constant like tidying up of things, it's getting rid of things. The less that you have to manage, the easier you'll find it to keep on top of things. And for most of my adult life, I didn't appreciate that. And it was only when I had my eldest, who is now 6.5. And at that point, like I feel like we probably always had a lot of stuff in our house. Like our house was full, but I was managing to keep on top of keeping it tidy because I didn't have kids. And not that I had lots of free time, but I had more time. And suddenly I had a child, I had no time. Like my first child was a very refluxy child and a very clingy baby, a little bit of a Velcro baby. And so I constantly had this baby, attached to me. And then didn't have the time to keep on top of the house. And suddenly was so overwhelmed. And that's when I found YouTube. I started watching YouTube. I found a bunch of YouTubers who were amazing, started taking in all the advice, the parenting advice, but also found myself watching decluttering videos and had a bit of a light bulb moment where I was like, that's it. I just need to get rid of stuff. And I remember saying to my husband, like, this is what is going to help me. This is going to make me feel better. I need to start going through the house. I need to start clearing things. And it was like Marie Kondo that I found first. I think she had a television series at the time. Watched all the videos and I thought, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I got all the stuff out and really found that that method did not suit the phase of life that I was in. Like I did not have the time to dedicate myself to that. If you do, then great. I think that it's a good way to really like seriously cull the stuff you have in a short space of time. But there was absolutely no way I could do it. So I much prefer the kind of method where you are like, yeah, getting a tub of clothes out at a time, taking things out, seeing what you can get rid of. And then if a child needs me or like something goes wrong and I can't get back to the task, all I have is one tote box I can put stuff back into, pack it away, and then tackle it again another day. I find anything to do with my kids hard to declutter. Toys are definitely the hardest category for me. And kids' clothing is also difficult because I find it, difficult to know what we will need in the future. And I actually looked at my 6-year-old today. He put some tracksuit bottoms on, took him out for a bike ride with his brother. And I'm like, your trousers are so short. Like suddenly they are halfway up your legs. He's obviously had a bit of a growth spurt. We need to go up a size. I need to buy a few more things. And I'm really good at buying things second hands. Like I will absolutely have a look on Vinted. I think so often people buy things and they don't suit or the kids aren't wearing them that much and you can get stuff which is basically like brand new. So I will have a look there and look to get some secondhand things, but also just then what do you do with these things? Like I keep things for my other son. Will I need things, later in the year? Will they still be able to wear things? Will they have grown out of them? So I do find that I keep a lot of stuff when it comes to my kids. So we're on to the next day now, and I am tackling the kitchen. So I tackled really what I would say is more of a surface declutter here. Like there was so much stuff on the kitchen island, so much stuff on the work surfaces. So before I wanted to get into any of the cupboards, I wanted to go through all of this. So going through all the paperwork, actually just tackling the trash first. So here, very much my method was get out the recycling bins, take out the rubbish, and then start tackling everything else. So once I'd gone through all of the paperwork and the rubbish there and got that out of the house, and the rest of the rubbish. So then I had like some clean bins I could work from. I could be putting stuff back into. One of these bins was a bit murky. So my aim during this decluttering series was not to do too many like deep cleans of areas, but then also have areas of the house where I wouldn't often be able to clean, like what I did under the bed in my bedroom. I mean, I can't tell you that I've ever got everything out from under my bed, but once I had done so, then I gave it a really good hoover out. So there are areas like that where I think like I've got the opportunity to actually clean them. Obviously, with a bin, like if we got a murky bin, you don't want to put a bag straight back into it. So that had to be cleaned. So after I had dealt with like the trash, I did the washing up, and time was slipping away really quickly here. And that timer is something that I use for all of my timed declutters. Most of my declutters took place in a short period of time where I had just like a lunch break to dedicate to them. I do work from home an awful lot. And particularly like in December, I did have several days where I was in London doing client things, seeing people in the lead up to Christmas. But I worked from home a fair bit. And when I worked from home, I would set a timer on my lunch break to make sure that I didn't spend too long, that I didn't get carried away. But also, I find that when I have a timer set, then it really gives me that kick up the backside to get things done. Like I've got a timer set, you got 20 minutes, got to get as much done as possible, crack on with it. So emptying the dishwasher here, and when we empty our dishwasher, we always fill up our kids' cups for bedtime straight away. So that's what I'm doing. Water in their water cups, milk in my 2-year-old's cup, and they go straight back into the fridge. And then when it's like the hectic kind of bedtime routine, I can just grab those out. I feel like I haven't worn my Christmas jumper that much this December. And now it just feels, well, I can't because Christmas Day has been and gone. When are you putting your Christmas decorations away? I feel like for me, it might be New Year's Day or the day after, because that is my non-working day. And then like get it all packed away so that when I get back to work on the Friday, on the third, that it'll kind of be de-Christmased in the house. But I think a lot of people keep them up until the 6th, don't they? So and I think my mum, she keeps them up for as long as possible. And then I guess she'll be putting them away maybe the Sunday before. But yeah, when are you putting yours away? I had my sister-in-law family and over yesterday, and my sister-in-law said she'd got back from Christmas and put everything away, like all the Christmas decorations away. And I think a lot of people are like that. They're like, Christmas Day has been, that is it, the Christmas decorations go away. So here in the kitchen, what I decided to do was take everything off of the kitchen island, give that a good clean, and then put back on the kitchen island what I wanted to see there. So that I would basically end up with everything I wanted on the kitchen island on the island and everything remaining on the table. I would then have to sort out, declutter, find appropriate homes for. I feel like during this declutter, I didn't actually get rid of masses, or at least I did get I got rid of a lot of trash, which I put straight into the bins. So we won't be covering that at the end of the video. So here going through like recipes and menu cards. We have this box of cookbooks which sits on the kitchen island, and I do love my cookbooks. I like cooking, I especially like baking. I like baking cakes, and I don't do like a lot of baking. I do cook a fair bit. I don't do masses of baking, but what I do love to do is like take a few like of my cookbooks up to bed. Like on a weekend, if I get like a bit of a lie in occasionally, like granted, it hasn't been a long time since I've done this, but I love to take a few cookbooks to bed and just like spend like 10-15 minutes just leafing through them, thinking about what I might want to bake next. So for me, I guess my cookbooks and my baking stuff, it's a bit of a hobby for me. But I don't use them every single day. I do have a recipe kind of book and recipes that I'm using a bit that sit at the front there. But I don't really need to have the cookbooks out. So what I'm planning at the moment actually is ordering in a bit more storage. What I did want to do with this declutter was to order lots more storage and just put things away and then have more furniture. I feel like that's still not dealing with the issue really. So here's a look at where I got to with the end of this surface declutter. I'm really pleased with this one, and it made an instant improvement. And I think, like visually, the fact that this area looked better kind of really spurred me on to keep going. So I had a few things I had kept out for various different reasons, like the Christmas cards that we hadn't written, a decoration that I did fix. But yes, as I said, I'm planning on getting a little bit more storage. And then what I think I might do is like move the cookbooks and move some of the things so they are away in cupboards and a bit more out of view. So we are on to the next day now and tackling the clothes in my 2-year-old's bedroom now. My 2-year-old is really lucky, like she's got so many clothes. And we actually have only half of her wardrobe out at any one time. So her summery things and her like warmer weather clothing is in a bag in our loft. And she just has her winter stuff out. But she's got a drawer full of pajamas and tights and socks. She's got another drawer which has her kind of better clothes, one of the bigger drawers. And then she's got another bigger drawer which has her messy clothing, her nursery clothes, the stuff that we don't mind if she gets paint all over it, etc. Because I don't care how many times anyone tells you like that paint at nursery is washable. It is not. It will not all come out of your kids' clothing, I am telling you. She also has quite a lot of Christmas clothing, these super cute Christmas pajamas. And we're so lucky to have great friends who think of us when their kids are growing out of things. And I feel like at this age in particular, they don't really wear through clothes so much. So clothes that are being passed on are always in such good condition. She also does have some hand-me-downs from her brothers, particularly pajamas, jeans, etc. I did buy my boys quite a lot of colourful clothing, like they didn't have too much, it was just like dark colors, although I feel like for boys you don't get as much choice when it comes to colorful clothing. But I like colorful clothing and I like buying colorful clothing for my kids, like a big fan of some rainbow clothing in our house. And I had so many times where my boys would be out and I'd get comments from people saying like, oh, your daughter is so beautiful, just because I would put him in, a pink shirt or some pink chino shorts with a yellow top or something. And I feel like we're so used to only seeing girls wearing colourful clothing, that, automatically when somebody sees a baby or a toddler wearing bright clothes, they think it's a girl. But, it doesn't bother me at all. I just love them looking cute in bright clothing. But now, that they're a bit older, my boys are 6 and 4, they very much are getting to that point where they like know what they want to wear. And they like to look smart a lot of the time. They like to have dark jeans and they like to have smart shirts, which I think is really cute. They basically want to be like my husband, basically like mini me's of him. So I feel like with my daughter's clothing, I could definitely get rid of more stuff. And I'm really looking forward to going through her drawers again. But as I said, kids stuff, I find that the hardest, absolutely. Kids' toys, kids' clothes, I find it super hard. But there's definitely things that we are not reaching for, we're not putting her in. A few things actually recently that she's worn, I thought, yeah, you've definitely grown out of that, like the sleeves are too far up your arms or whatever it may be. She's also had a bit of a growth spurt. So there are definitely some things that we can pass on. I have got a couple of friends with young daughters, who I'm able to pass on clothes to. I just have to be sort of, at the moment, I'm being more mindful as to what I am passing on to them, and the fact that, they have other people who are giving them hand me downs. I found it overwhelming at times. So then you get like bags and bags of stuff that you have to sort through, and you're like in the trenches of the early days with a baby. So I'm trying to be careful, make sure that I'm only passing on like the absolute best stuff, seasonal stuff, the Christmas stuff, and all that, and then the rest of it goes in our local Salvation Army bin. So it all gets recycled one way or other. Moving on to the next day and tackling my bedroom. I thought here I might find this missing watch of mine because ordinarily I put my watch on my bedside table. This is my bedside table. And I had last worn the watch the Saturday before I started decluttering. I knew that I had definitely worn it. I remember like looking at the watch because I couldn't find my phone to look at the time. And I remember thinking, oh, good, I put my watch on today. And I don't wear my watch every single day, but I had worn it. We were out with family. I'd put the watch on. Now we got back late. The kids were sleepy. We had to get them to bed. They were a bit emotional because they were tired. And I was covered in mud. We'd been out at a castle. We'd all got like muddy. And so I had to like very quickly get changed so that I could help, put my kids to bed. So I was putting my 2-year-old to bed. And she wanted cuddles. I didn't want to get mud everywhere. So I do remember like I come in and I'd obviously quickly got rid of my muddy clothes, got my pajamas on. I must have taken the watch off then, but I didn't remember taking it off because that why would I remember taking it off? Like that wasn't a big event or anything. So the fact that I couldn't remember taking the watch off always made me fear like had I actually lost the watch? Like did it somehow come off? Like how could it have come off or how could I have lost it? So we had to like hope that it was somewhere in the house. My 2-year-old is a bit of a magpie. She does like shiny things. She does like to pick up my watch and wander around with it occasionally. I hadn't obviously seen her do that, but that's what we hoped. We hoped that she'd wandered off with the watch. Somebody had some great advice on here and said that I should get a watch, give it to her, and ask her where she'd hide it. And I did do that. I had an older silver watch that I gave her, and I asked her to hide it, but she was not playing ball at all. And she just threw it back at me, shouting no. And but yeah, I hoped that I might find the watch, that it might have fallen, it might be in one of these tubs or whatever. But sadly, this was not the day for finding the watch. I did, however, find the watch. I didn't find it actually. When I say I found it was my 6-year-old that found it. And then that was, I believe it was day 8 of the decluttering. And I think it was my decluttering that helped find it because I had lifted his mattress. And I think in doing so, I had dislodged it. It obviously got trapped between his mattress and his bed by, like, he's in the top bunk. It was by the ladder. And my 2-year-old is a big fan of climbing up the ladder, getting on his bed. And I think she must have taken the watch and then run up into his bed. We always try to get her off the bed and off the ladder as quickly as possible. I don't think it's safe for her at 2 to be on that top bunk. So we probably chased after her, not realizing that she had the watch. And I think she would have dropped the watch as she got up the ladder, and it got trapped there. So I was reading to my boys at bedtime one night, and they're just like they got ants in the pants. I'm always like moving around while I'm reading, and my 6-year-old had reached up like under, so he's on the bottom bunk while we're reading. He'd reached up to where his bed is, and was like, "Oh my goodness, is that your watch, mummy?" And I couldn't believe it actually because we had spent so long. I had spent so long decluttering. I'd gone through so much upstairs that I had got to the point where I thought that I would never see the watch again. And I had cried quite a lot since losing the watch. I'd had moments where I thought, I'm never going to see this watch again. And I felt terrible about it. So I am now, when I take the watch off, I'm putting it away in the little kind of zip up pouch that it came with. But this day in particular, this was a weekend. This was one of the biggest declutters, or the biggest declutter that we did. I did during this 20-day period, because it was a weekend. I could spend a bit more time, and because we hoped very much that we would find the watch. My husband was taking care of the kids, keeping them entertained, took them out for a couple of hours, and I cleared everything out. I got absolutely everything out from under the bed. Actually, I think I ended up without enough memory on my phone to capture all of this. So you get to miss seeing me actually in the bed when it was empty, hoovering it all out. But I did do that. Roughly kind of half the stuff under the bed is mine, half the stuff is my husband's. And during my declutters, I am not touching any of my husband's things unless he has said in advance that he wants me to get rid of anything that is his, or is a joint thing, or is a kid's thing, or whatever. If it's something which is solely his, then I am not touching it. That is absolutely for him to sort out and declutter. When I first started decluttering, after I had my firstborn, decided that I really needed to declutter some stuff from the house. I really did like get on his back to get rid of things. My husband is very sentimental about things. He keeps things for a very long time. And we both have a lot of stuff, but I think I focused a lot initially on the stuff that he had. He has like under the bed there are some box sets of VHS videos. We don't have a VHS, or we don't have a working VHS player. And in fact, in our entire relationship, I don't remember ever owning a working VHS player or him ever watching these, but they mean a lot to him. And he always says it's one thing that he wants to get a VHS player working and actually start to watch some of these. So, and that's important to him. So, therefore, I keep my nose out of it. I took all of his stuff out. I dusted a lot of it down because it had become a bit gritty, and I put everything back in, and that was it. Put it in a little bit more ordered, and it's up to him if he wants to part with anything. And if he watches this video, I don't think he should get rid of his VHSs. If they're important to him, that's absolutely fine. We have the space for these things if we clear out the things that we don't want. And what I don't want to do is make anyone in the house feel bad or upset, or like they can't have things that bring them joy. But when I concentrated on my stuff, I found it made such an improvement. I also found that it kind of rubbed off on my husband a bit. Like he saw me getting rid of so much stuff, he saw how much easier it was making our life, and then he started to clear some of his things too. And I've seen that actually in the last couple of weeks that he's been putting some things to one side, a pair of old slippers in the bin. And, it's just, I think partly I guess he's going to be doing these things anyway, and partly it's that seeing me do it. So moving on from that disappointing declutter because I did not find the missing watch. And here I had got some things out again. And there were some other Christmas things in my loft which I wanted to go through. And I was so glad that I did because when I went through them, so you saw me tackle some of the Christmas clothing previously, but now I was tackling the other Christmas tote boxes. And when I was going through them, I realized there were some Christmas decorations that I had missed when I put them out that I really did want to have out, including this lovely like reindeer toy. It's something about it. It's just really quirky and cute and fun. And I was so pleased to find it. Found a bunch of other things I could use for our elves. I really like the whole elf on the shelf thing. So this was the reindeer, so cute. But yeah, I love the elves. They bring my kids a lot of joy. It is a bit more work in December, like coming up with things for them to do, but it's also such good fun, and they really buy into it. Like they absolutely love it. Every morning they're really excited to run downstairs, see what the elves have been up to. And once the elves returned to the North Pole with Santa at Christmas, the kids were a bit sad. Like when we were away for Christmas, when we came back, my middle child, my 4-year-old, the next morning rolled along, and he was, came downstairs and he said, "Oh, where are the elves?" And it sort of dawned on him that they were gone back with Santa, and he won't see them till next year, and it is really sad. But yeah, tackling some of the stuff in my loft basically because I have some clothes of the kids. When I'd gone through like the boys' clothes, I had some stuff that I wanted to put in tote boxes in the loft, passed down. And I wanted to like fully tackle that. I didn't want to just leave them in bags in their wardrobe. So I wanted to get boxes that we have out of our loft of their clothes, the kind of hand-me-down clothes, put stuff away, but also go back through those tote boxes and just check, that I don't have too much in them. There isn't more stuff to get rid of. This one's so heavy. Oh my goodness. And I really need to split that into two. It's just too heavy for that many clothes to be up there. But it's great that we do have stuff to pass on. We don't have a lot of stuff that is like in older sizes. I do have a couple of nephews we get the occasional bit from, mostly like it might be a coat or a pair of shoes that were bought but then found to be the wrong size, that sort of thing. But now I feel like once they are that bit older, they really do start to wear through their clothes a lot more, and there are far fewer things to pass on. But if we get stuff, that my eldest doesn't wear out, that's always great. That I know that I'm going to be able to make use of it, that we pass down to my middle child. And I don't sort of have to feel guilty about anything there. But it means that we always do have quite a few tote boxes in our loft with other size clothing in, and that is an area that I absolutely do want to tackle. The loft actually isn't an area that I've put on my 30-day declutter challenge, but I feel like I should have done. But that said, it's going to take quite a while. There is a lot of stuff in our loft. And I feel like, we have lost track of it. With kids' clothing in particular, we've had points where we've gone through the tote boxes and realized we've missed like a whole tote box. And so like the kids are out of that size. The youngest is, out of it, never going to wear it, and I've passed on clothes to friends for their kids, which are basically like unworn. So, a lot have been hand me downs to us in the first place. But it's really annoying when you haven't made use of clothes or when you may have bought things only to realize that you still had them in the loft. I have done that quite a lot because there is so much stuff in our loft. And that is also, a downside of having so much stuff, is that you then miss things and you don't utilize them. Whereas I feel like if you have less stuff, you can keep track of it easier. You know what you've got, you know where it is, and you're not going to lose it so easily. Why have I ended up with so much stuff? I feel like I, you know, haven't been good at letting go of things, but I also hadn't realized for many years that it was such a problem. So it only became a problem when I had less time, when I had children. But I say that it was a problem, it just wasn't a problem before that I realized. But now, I feel like I've got this opportunity to improve our life, make things easier on us. And I definitely saw that when I started decluttering after having my firstborn. I got to that point where I thought, yes, things are easier now. Like, it doesn't take so long to tidy up the house before having people over. Like, I remember with my firstborn, we had our like NCT mum and baby group. We would take it in turns to have people over to our houses, and like host a bit of food, coffees, and the babies would all play together. And when it was my turn to host, I had my mother-in-law come the day before, and she basically held the baby in between feeds so that I could run around tidying the place. And it took like a whole day. My mother-in-law here holding the baby, my mother and father-in-law here, and I was running around like a headless chicken trying to get the house in order. And looking back now, like, it's so absurd, like so much time wasted sorting out the house. When I'd now it doesn't take as long as that. Like, it wouldn't take me a full day to prepare the house for visitors, but it would still take me too long. I'd love to get to the point where it would take me like half an hour to prepare the house, like where it was more picking up a few things, running Hoover and the speed mop round, and that's it. Like, that would be amazing if I could get to that point. And I know that for some people, when they see my videos and they see how much stuff that we have, they are quite shocked. But I don't think that the amount that we have is that unusual. Like, I know when I am visiting other family members and other friends' houses, that I'm not alone in having a lot of stuff as a parent of young children. And I think that a lot of us find ourselves in this position where I think when you have kids, like, a lot of stuff enters your house very suddenly. A lot of big things as well. A lot of the baby kit is very big, but then you have toddlers and young children. A lot of their toys are very big. They come with a lot of stuff. They need a lot of stuff. But also then you have less time to manage that stuff. And I think that combination of more stuff coming in and less time to manage is like that perfect storm for quickly ending up in a position where you are overwhelmed by the volume of things in your house. But also, like, tragically, it's the time in life where having less things makes your life so much easier. Like, I definitely see that less toys is a better thing for my kids. When they have less options of things to choose from, then they play for longer with things, they play nicer with things. When they have more stuff, they get really quickly overwhelmed. But also they'll get one toy out, they'll play with it for a bit, they get distracted by another toy, they'll get that out, they'll play with that for a bit, and then before we know it, they are surrounded by toys. They start to get quite anxious and angry. People will start tripping on things. Things will get broken because people are tripping on things. And it just ends up generally being a bit of a disaster. Whereas if I go to my mum's house, for example, where she has a selection of toys, but obviously a smaller selection of toys because she only has them there for the grandkids when they go and play. She's got Lego boxes, the original Lego boxes where me and my brother and sister had as kids growing up. She has those in the office space in her house, and like my boys will go straight in there, sit down, get the Lego out. Like they know what they're playing with when they go there. They know what they're going to do. They're looking forward to it. Whereas in my house, where we have Lego and we have all sorts of other toys, like I feel like they don't really know what to do. So I mean, taking today for an example, one of my kids wanted to watch a Harry Potter movie. The other kid is not into it. I mean, the toddler doesn't want to watch television at all. She's always busy doing something. But the child who did not want to watch Harry Potter then is getting bored, kicking off a bit, winding everyone else up. And I said, there's so much else to do in the house, like get something to do. And he just looked at me like a bit miffed, like, do what? Get what? Like he doesn't know what to get out to play with without direction. And I'd like to be in a position where there isn't as much choice, or they know what they're doing, they know where they're going for things, and we're not getting that kind of boredom and kicking off about things and mess everywhere. So, tackling the hallway in this particular declutter, I had wanted to have built in shelving in this particular cupboard. When we had worked on our house 4 years ago, we had a two-story side extension, a single-story rear extension. Our house had previously been a two-bed end terrace. It is now a three-bed. And the bedrooms are small. They have managed to add in an ensuite, which is amazing. And the downstairs area is by far like the biggest improvement. We've got this big, large, open plan space. It's great for having young kids. But we do lack storage space quite significantly. And under the stairs is one of the areas I wanted to kind of utilize for storage space. But I have come up with a plan, which I actually talked through with my husband last night. And what we're going to do is, so what we have there is a four box Kallax and a two box Kallax sitting next to each other. But this is quite a deep cupboard. And there's loads of stuff kind of just chucked behind there. Also, those units don't come out to the kind of edge of that understairs area. And what we're going to do is remove one like plank of wood from the front of the Kallaxes, bring the Kallaxes forward, or rather back, and put the same again. So another set of like 4 cube and 2 cube unit in front of it or behind it, whatever way you want to look at it, attach them properly. So you've got like this double depth Kallax. And then what we have there, we've got a lot of decorating supplies, we've got DIY things, drills, stuff like that. And what we can do then is have that still, but push it back to the back of the unit. And then at the front of the unit, we can have a box each for my kids to have their school bags and their nursery bags in, their hats and gloves of whatever the season is. They can have that there. We can have the nappy bag packed away in one kind of cube on its own. And then I'm going to make a work surface kind of for the top of it as well, and paint that and like make it into a proper unit. So I'm really excited for that project. I've got quite a few projects planned. Understairs, I've got toys, and my desk area are kind of three big projects I'm going to tackle over January. I'm really excited for. So we're back in my boys' bedroom, and this time to tackle toys. They don't actually have masses of toys in here. They have got a lot of books. We've got this toy area, which is the only kind of toy area they have upstairs. They're still at that age, 6 and 4, where they don't want to play a lot in their bedrooms. I think growing up, I don't remember having any toys downstairs. I don't know what you were like growing up in your house. What was it like? But for me, toys were not downstairs. Maybe when we were very, very young, we would have had a few things downstairs, when we were literally like too young to be upstairs on our own. But by the age of, 6, I would say all of my toys were upstairs. And if you wanted to play with your toys, you play with them upstairs, or you could bring a few downstairs and they had to go back upstairs. Lego, I think, is something that we always had downstairs because that was a kind of shared toy. Although I think it was mostly my brother that played with it. But I had a bit of Lego, did enjoy making a Lego house. But yeah, otherwise, all of the toys were upstairs in our bedrooms. But with my kids, we have toys upstairs in the bedrooms, which are mostly for bedtime. So I try very much to make sure that the toys that we have up there are like more peaceful play, if you like. Perhaps not the kind of action figures that they have on the top there, but the magnetic tiles, which is an absolute favourite of mine. And if you are in need of a gift idea for younger children, magnetic tiles are awesome. And I love playing with them too. So we'll get the magnetic tiles out in an evening and build away, and they come with some booklets that give you like some ideas of things to make, which is also really good fun. But we have like games here, like magnetic tiles, and then kind of like a game we have shapes that you make into pictures. And I think they're really good, like just kind of channeling some energy and getting them sat down a bit more peaceful, bit of a calming game before bedtime. So we don't play with them every single day, but we do play with them a lot, and I love playing with them too. We also have a fair bit of Playmobil in our house. It's another one that we had growing up as kids. I feel like Playmobil is one of those that kind of lasts, that it stands the test of time. It's a good one to be able to pass down, quite robust. But also they do come with like smaller bits and figures and fun things like that you can really get stuck into and come up with some good creative games. But we do have a lot of Playmobil. I bought a bumper, 2 bags actually, 2 bin bags full of Playmobil, secondhand from somebody on Facebook Marketplace for like 30 quid. It was such a good, like absolutely great bargain. But it came with so much. So we have gifted on quite a bit of that over the last year or so, to my nephews. But that bin lorry, I'm put it to one side, and that is going to go to grandma's house, because she's in need of small vehicles, she tells me. So here I'm just sorting through like the Playmobil pieces so that I can come up with some figures and a few things to go in the bin lorry so that like it can be a complete game. I would really like to get like a proper toy rotation going. And that's something I hope to do with new toy storage. Playmobil is one of those ones where like they'll play with it a lot, for a while, and then they'll get bored of it. But because we have so much Playmobil, we can switch out for a different, we can switch out the fire engines for the camping Playmobil, and we've got pyramid Playmobil up there. We've also got Noah's Ark, we've got pirate ships and all sorts of different Playmobil and space stuff. And but it takes time to like actually switch it all out. You've got to have a proper toy rotation. I always say like I wish we had a garage that I could have some shelving units in, and then I just have other like of those Kallax cubes filled with the toy rotation toys, and you could just take one whole cube out, put it back in, put it into the garage, get another one out. But we only really have our loft space when it comes to storing things. We do have a shed, it's absolutely tiny, but also we have a problem with getting rats in our shed. So anything fabric or anything, basically of any real importance to you cannot be in the shed. So the only thing we have in there is garden toys, bikes, and then like DIY stuff, pots of paint, that sort of thing. So everything else has to be in our house, proper, or in the loft space. And the loft space, because it isn't easy to get into, and it is a bit of a like, it's a bit of a chore getting the steps, getting the ladder out, getting the hatch out, getting up into the loft, finding what you need, bringing it down, all that like is such a palaver. It does not work for a toy rotation. So that is something I want to think about and see if I can manage that with what we have. We have an awful lot of books. We do read a lot of books. We read every night. We read 2, 3 books at least. to, each child. And my daughter has a bunch more books as well. I think I read about 4 books with her this evening. And she'll just keep reading book after book after book. And I'm a bit of a bookworm. I'm loving fostering this in my kids. But there are books that we can get rid of. There are books that got a bit bored of, or grown out of, or whatever it is. And I think books is one we have to regularly go through. Like, we got new books gifted to us for Christmas. So as soon as I'm getting rid of things, things are coming in. I feel like we fared pretty well at Christmas this year. Like, when I looked at what the kids had been gifted, I really didn't feel like they had been too spoilt. I was good at giving a list, giving some practical things out to family members who asked. And also, like, for the gifts that we gave, we tried not to go too over the top. My kids needed iPads, which is obviously quite an expense, but they need them for school. Like, there are so many apps for school now, and even their books are like online books that they're reading. And our iPads that we had in the house were so old that we couldn't update them, and we couldn't get the school apps on them. So I have an iPad which, I don't know, is maybe like 8, 9 years old. And I use it just for watching YouTube when I'm in the kitchen. It's basically like a mini television. So if the kids are watching something in the living room, if I'm doing some cooking, and I want to watch something, then I will put something on my iPad. But I don't otherwise use it for anything. Like, I use my phone for everything else. So they couldn't also use my iPad because that was so out of date. So anyway, we bought them reconditioned iPads, so secondhand iPads, reconditioned on Amazon, and it's been great, a great decision there. But because it was that kind of more expensive gift, meant that really, it was just stocking fillers and a couple of other smaller items from us. But I knew that, their aunties and uncles, grandparents would be buying them things, and that overall they would have plenty. And that was definitely the case. And I feel like that they're really enjoying the presents that they have, that they are playing with them lots, which is wonderful to see. But because I had done a few declutters of toys in the lead up to Christmas, I did have room to pack them away. We are definitely at like capacity with toys. I'd like to get a few more things that we have out on display, as it were, into cupboards, and like get them away, get things tidier, like visually, at the point where more things have a home. I don't want to be a minimalist. I don't think I ever will be a minimalist. I don't want to be like living in a show home. I do have 3 young children, and I'm very happy with my house looking like I have 3 young children. I just want to get to the point where it is an improvement, and I don't know exactly how that will feel, but I'll know it when I feel it, right? I know I will get to that point where I think, I'm here. I've, reached, peak decluttering. I don't know. So back in the kitchen now and tackling some of the cupboards. And even though I think I spent 3 days over the 20 days of decluttering in the kitchen, I realised there are still some areas of the kitchen that I didn't tackle at all during the 20 days. So, I mean, our kitchen isn't the biggest kitchen, but I feel like kitchen cupboards, they hold an awful lot of stuff, don't they? So we still have some cupboards to go. And I also want to go back through everything. I think so far, there isn't anything I have regretted getting rid of from the house. But one thing that was a minor annoyance on yesterday, I was hosting family. I made a big spaghetti bolognese. So there were 9 of us having spaghetti bolognese, and once I'd done the spaghetti, I realised, I didn't have a colander to drain the spaghetti in, because I'd gotten rid of the colander during the 20 days of decluttering, and I'd got rid of the colander because I hadn't used it for years. So this is not something I use, not something my husband uses. If we are cooking something like rice, then we use this, like, we've got this really big sieve that we use to drain it. Colander wouldn't be useful for that anyway, right? But if we're cooking pasta, then we just use the lid of the saucepan to like tilt onto the top and drain it that way. But because I'd made so much pasta, it, like, I couldn't put a lid on the things that I was cooking the pasta in, pots that I was cooking the pasta in. Yeah, it was interesting. I basically had to gradually like move the pasta into smaller saucepans in order to drain it, which was a minor annoyance. But then I thought to myself, like, do I really regret getting rid of the colander? Because if I'm just going to use it like once every couple of years, because I've made a lot of pasta for a lot of people, but hardly ever do that, it's not worth it, is it, to have a big colander taking up loads of space in a kitchen cupboard? So overall, I'm still happy that I got rid of it, but I just kind of wished I'd got rid of it, after hosting 9 people for pasta, but whatever, absolutely fine. Something I always have too many of, tea towels and towels. Are you like that? They seem to breed in my cupboards. Like socks disappear and tea towels breed. So once I mentioned to my mum that I didn't have many tea towels, and then it ended up with so many. But I do love a good tea towel as well. Like if you go to a nice National Trust property, there's always a lovely tea towel for sale in a gift shop, isn't there? And I can't resist it. I don't know what it is. Something about tea towels. But I did get rid of a couple, I think, during this declutter. I really, really wish that when I had ordered the kitchen, when I had the work done on the house, this kitchen is in the extension to the house is entirely new. And I could have bought an insert for this cupboard, this corner cupboard, that like you pulled out so that you could see everything in the back of the cupboard easily, right? But it was like £500. This insert, it was like on its own, absolutely ridiculous for what is basically a metal frame on the wheels. So I didn't get it because I had seen that you could get a similar thing from IKEA much cheaper. So I was like, absolutely fine. I'm going to buy this from IKEA. I'm going to fit it myself. I'm very handy, like a bit of DIY. I was not put off by this at all. But what I found was this corner thingy from IKEA is never in stock. It's never in stock. So whenever I went to order it from whichever IKEA in the land, it was never available. And yeah, that is one regret I had for the kitchen. Probably the only regret I had in the design of the kitchen was not being able to get this. On a random note, absolutely not connected to decluttering at all. Since I started filming myself for this series, I realised my hair colour is a bit patchy. So my hair is I dyed my hair using like a box dye of a like blonde, and it's come out, over the years. I guess it's got a bit lighter and it's quite blondie on the top, but then my hair is quite a lot darker at the back, and I feel like it looks a bit weird. But I've been debating for some time now whether I grow out my hair dye so that I have my natural hair color back again. But my natural hair color now is quite significantly grey. And I think it will age me. And I'm not sure if that bothers me. But anyway, what are your takeaways on this? Do you dye your hair? Should I grow it out? I'm just interested. I'm gonna probably do it, I think, anyway. But interested to hear people's views on it because if I asked like a family member, like I asked my mum what she thought, she was absolutely horrified by the idea of it. But this is also a woman that's dyed her hair like, you know, probably since she was 30 years old. So now we are back on toys. Another round of toys where I have more toys in this particular unit under our TV, which I hadn't decluttered at any point during this series. Now, this is a cupboard where I would like to eventually not have toys in. So we get our new toy storage for the living room. I want to move the bulk of the toys out of here into so we just have one area of toy storage. We might have to have some of the longer toys, the weaponry we have here. My kids have a lot of swords and shields and axes and all kinds of weaponry that they have. And I think there is a little bit that I might be able to get rid of. But I'm also a bit anxious to do that because those are toys that they really do like and they do play with them quite a bit. But anyway, I managed to get rid of some bulky toys during this declutter, which was really good and also just a really good time of year to do it because people are looking for secondhand toys in December to buy for their kiddos. I bought some things secondhand. I've absolutely no problem buying secondhand things for the kids. Where they wanted some fancy dress stuff. And I think fancy dress stuff is one of those, like with kids, like you buy it for one occasion, like maybe it's World Book Week or your kids doing something at school. Like my eldest has to dress up as somebody from the Great Fire of London in February. and I must buy an outfit for that. I don't have one. But also I might try to fashion one myself out of some old bed sheets or something. But I've got to buy something or make something for that. And he's not going to wear that again. That is just one day at school where they're all going to be dressed up and he's going to really enjoy it, right? So it's absolutely worth it. He's going to love it. He's going to learn a bit about some history of the country, and that's really important. But we end up with a lot of fancy dress that way, and so do other people. So when they wanted some fancy dress stuff for Christmas, I went on to Vinted. I bought them some. It was like some Royal Guard fancy dress they wanted, and my eldest wanted Willy Wonka fancy dress as well. And I managed to find both on Vinted, much more reasonable than if I was buying them new. And my kids have worn that stuff a lot already. They've worn it a lot this Christmas. They've really enjoyed it, but they're equally not going to wear it every day, right? So, will it ever get worn out by them? That is debatable, because they also, they're growing so quickly. And then before I know it, they won't fit in clothes anymore. And I did actually buy a fancy dress, like a size up, and the trousers are like hanging off the floor of both of the boys. But I am not, I have no regrets there because I know in another 6 months they'll probably be halfway up their ankles again. So one thing I have done with a lot of our games is decant them into these plastic wallets, and I found that really helpful. It doesn't work for all of the games. I do like to have quite a lot of the board games still in their original boxes, but particularly puzzles, card games. I decanted them into plastic wallets. They fit in the cupboard so much better. They take up so much less space. Toy cars. I've actually got myself a new tub for there from IKEA that I haven't got around to putting up. But that's something that we have done. I feel like we could get rid of a lot more toy cars. My kids have never been into toy cars. They like the remote controlled ones, but not so much those ones. And actually, one of the things I did do during this decluttering series, during the next 10 days, not shown here, I went around with a big bag and I put toys that I wasn't sure on, like, would the kids miss them? Will they ask me for them? I put them in a big bag and we put them in the loft. So I'm going to revisit that somewhere between 3 to 6 months, I think. I'll revisit it. If they haven't asked for anything, then I might get rid of it. And I think I might do that also for their like weaponry toys because they have a couple of axes, a couple of swords that they don't play with as much. Like they've got nicer swords, they've got some wooden ones that they love, and some newer ones. And I feel like there are definitely some I could put in the loft. And if after like 6 months they haven't asked for them, then they're not going to ask for them, right? I feel like after 6 months, if they haven't missed them, I will move them on. I did have one comment from somebody that sort of stuck in my brain really that was quite upset that I was getting rid of any of the kids' toys. It said that they had been like scarred for life by their parents taking and getting rid of a toy, decluttering a toy that they loved. And it really affected them. And this was a useful comment, I think, for me, just to remind me that there are things that the kids hold a lot of sentimental value to nowadays. So now we are getting into the what did I actually get rid of during this 10 days of decluttering. So here's some of the stuff that I got rid of clothing wise. I've got some things that I'm going to sell, a couple of things I'm going to sell, and mostly clothes that I'm going to be putting in the bin. I actually just put them in the bin right then and there, like no time like the present, to just get rid of kind of tired out undies, and a couple of vest tops that I went into the Salvation Army. And when it came to the Christmas clothing, I had this big pile on my lap here that I got rid of. So a lot of stuff that I was able to pass on to friends to use straight away, able to give to friends to use next year, and give away locally. When it came to my kids' clothing, this massive pile here on the left, that was all the stuff that left the house. Then everything on the right was stuff that was going to be handing down. And I think there were a couple more things from there. When I went back through the tote boxes, I managed to get rid of there. But mostly it was this pile on the left hand side that actually left the house. And then on to my daughter's clothing, so much that I managed to get rid of here. Looking back at it, I'm amazed actually. A lot of stuff there that I was able to hand down to friends, and then stuff that went to the Salvation Army. In my bedroom, this is the stuff under the bed. We have a lot of stuff there that went to the charity shop, was passed on to friends, and then just rubbish, like actual trash here that I could get rid of. This Budapest guidebook, where I had just been to Budapest and forgot I had a guidebook, completely forgot. So that really did make me laugh, where you have stuff that you've held on to for so long in the hope you'll finally take that trip, only to not use it on the trip. I had been holding on to the box of that baby carrier for so long. I'm finally getting rid of the baby carrier, but I definitely don't need the box to do so. So here we go. Some more items of clothing that I got rid of. A couple of Christmas things that I was able to take to the charity shop for somebody to make use of. Some brand new things in there. My very original, like, topper for my first Christmas tree, which I hope will make someone else really happy. Clothing that I know, like, my kids don't wear long sleeve t-shirts much, so what is the point in holding on to them? Brand new shorts that were never used, and now my school don't have the school the kids go to, they don't use that colour shorts typically. And this whole massive bag of Paw Patrol toys, which we gave to the local charity shop. I actually did try to sell those. My friend had handed them down, and I thought, well, if I could sell them for a bit of money, I would pass it on to her. But nobody was interested. So there you go. I mean, it would have been, I think, an absolute bargain. I put them on, I thought, really cheaply, but that's fine. You know, some things you try, and I think if things don't sell within a week or two, I can't really afford to keep them in the house for that much longer. So I gave them away, and I'm absolutely sure it would have made somebody really happy. Those bags have been in the back of a cupboard for so long. Look, how gross is that? How many cobwebs? And then this was our hall and the stairs declutter. Again, like, got rid of so much stuff, like broken umbrellas. Why had we kept those? Broken toys. Why had we kept those? And a bunch of stuff there that we managed to get rid of. So much stuff during this 10-day period that, looking back at it, I cannot believe. I know I say, you know, in total it was 20 days we actually managed. I keep saying we, it was me. But here, toys that were in my kids' room and books in this big bag that went to the charity shop. The books as well went to the charity shop. And then the bin lorry is going to grandma's house. So that's been put to one side, ready to go to grandma's house. And as I say, we've had lots more books come into the house at Christmas. So the stash is built back up again. And then kitchen, again, loads of stuff that I managed to get rid of there, like alcohol no one had been drinking for years, spices that were so out of date. Like, oh my goodness, I had spices from 2017, and I am not quite sure how that happened, because I feel like I'm pretty good at going through and getting rid of food, but I guess spices is something that I have not looked at for a considerable period of time. So can't believe that that was so. There were two spices actually that were that far out of date. And then we have more toys from downstairs, board games that we've never used, puzzles that our kids have grown out of, other kind of the babyish toys that they've started to grow out of, which I managed to get rid of. So if you want to follow along the 30-day declutter in January, go and find that on my community pages, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.